Welcome to another episode of our live stream, My Journey to the Trinity. Happy to be with you. Happy you could be with me. Hope you're having a good night. And today, went out to the mosque. It's Friday, and had pretty. It wasn't the best day, but it wasn't bad. So, got a chance to talk to a couple people. And unfortunately, my internet connection wasn't working, so I don't have any video to show you. But I did get a chance to talk to a couple people. There was a Mexican guy who had become a Muslim. He was a Muslim, and I asked him, "Did you deny Jesus?" And he said, "Oh no, we believe in Jesus. We respect Jesus more than you." And I said, "Well, you denied the Son of God." Hey, welcome, Blackwater. God bless you. All right, God bless you, man. God bless you and bless your work. It's great to see you. And just so you know, we pray for you every day that the Lord will bless you and be with you and strengthen you and encourage you and use you and fill you with His Holy Spirit more and more. God bless you guys. Yeah. So anyway, so I thought, you know what might be a little bit fun is you guys, I have issues with Mountain Dew. I do have issues with Mountain Dew. I'm not trying to be bigoted or any kind of, you know, like I don't want to call myself a Diet Coke supremacist, but I am a Diet Coke addict. So yeah, I'm pretty much stuck on Diet Coke. You know what? When I was, I think as you grow as a person that you go through phases. And when I was young, of course, I never did diet. I just had real Pepsi. And I was a Pepsi person, not a Coke person. I was much more Pepsi minded than Coke minded. And in fact, I drank Pepsi so much. One time I drank Coke and it tasted like fish to me. It was like, I didn't like it. And then as I grew older and got diabetes, no, then I started, after that, I went through a Dr. Pepper phase where I really liked Dr. Pepper. And then there was this other thing called Mr. Pibb. I used to eat at Del Taco a lot, and they have what I think Mr. Pibb, and I used to drink that. But then came the diabetes, and I'm not claiming it. I bind it. I rebuke it in Jesus' name. But I do. I got to take this because of it. So, but because of that, I started drinking diet drinks, and I started with. I did try diet Mountain Dew. And I'll be honest with you, if I ever want Kentucky Fried Chicken is the only reason I'll drink Diet Dr. Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew, yes. Because they have Pepsi products instead of Coke products. So I don't like, Diet Pepsi. I like Diet Coke. And so when I go there, what I usually have is the Diet Mountain Dew. And so, Diet Mountain Dew is pretty good. Honestly, it tastes the same as regular Mountain Dew to me. You just finished. I had Zanku chicken. So, yeah. You know what? I can handle Kentucky Fried Chicken once every 3 months, about once every 3 months. But I can't have it. You had Jello, rock and roll. You know what, bro? You know what? What I do is I have pepperoni pizza because pepperoni does have pork in it, and you eat it and you don't really taste it. And so instead of the Jello, even though I don't have a problem with Jello, I don't have a problem with Jello, but I do. I don't eat bacon. I don't eat ham. If I know that it's in there, I have a hard time. Eating it. I recognize the flavor. I don't like the flavor of ham or bacon, or even though I got to be honest, there was a time when I went to Colombia. I was on a mission trip to Colombia, and while I was in Colombia, we went to Burger King, and I ordered this combo, one of those Whopper type combos, and I was eating this hamburger, and I took one bite of it, and it was so good. Oh my goodness, it was the best hamburger I've ever had in my whole life. It was like, dude, what's up with this hamburger, man? It's just perfect. It was the perfect hamburger. I never had such a delicious hamburger. Then I opened it and I realized it had bacon in it. So it was the bacon that made it the perfect hamburger. So, of course, when I knew, I couldn't eat it no more. But yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of like a psychological thing. I don't think. Hello, Lydia. God bless you. Merry Christmas to you and Blackwater, Marion, Andrew, Martin. You know what? I think bacon is good, and I probably eat a lot of it, and I just am not aware of it. I'm just not aware of it. And but that hamburger was the best hamburger I've ever had in my life, and it turned out to be a bacon hamburger. So, but anyway, Blackwater, I would encourage you to eat pepperoni pizza because that does have pork, but you don't really taste it, and it's so that's how I get around that. So, uh-oh. Don't know what happened there. Hello. Okay. I don't know what happened there, you guys. Maybe you can still hear my voice, so I'll go ahead and continue, even though devices going here. We got lots of devices here. Oh. Okay, there we go. Sorry. It's awful. They're starting. Really? Is that in Gaza, Lydia? Yeah, I'm in touch. I'm in touch with a lot of people there, and it's very, very, very painful, very hard. Wow. Lord Jesus, please bring peace. Please let those hostages be released in Jesus' name. And just pray for the hostages to be released because that'll bring an end to this thing in Jesus' name. All right. So, anyway, let me just play this video for you guys. It's very miserable. It's very miserable to watch. What happened? There's this guy who sent me this video today. Oh, really? Oh, Fatah. They killed a Fatah guy. When I was in Gaza, they killed a lot of Fatah guys. They killed a lot of Fatah guys. They said they were kuffar, takfir. So the Hamas guys said the Fatah guys were kafirs. Even though the Fatah guys did the same thing to the Hamas guys, said they were kafirs. In fact, what they started calling Hamas in Gaza was Shiites. So, yeah, that's a pretty big insult to them. So, anyway, let's just see this here real quick.
Wait, which event? This prophecy about Hosea. I'll go back and look at all this. But what I'm trying to get at is, if you had a plethora of contradictions, you wouldn't be spending the entire debate on one that I'm sure no one in the audience has heard of either. But okay, you've heard of it. Probably because you've been listening to his YouTube channel, right?
You don't think that this is a highly discussed point of contention in the Gospels, the flight to Egypt and its contradiction.
The flight to Egypt. Look, the flight to Egypt is an important event in the Gospel. I'm not saying.
Dinesh, also, you said, why could you only bring up this one example? Take your pick. The date of Jesus' crucifixion, whether they're to take a staff or not to take a staff, the dating of Jesus flipping the tables at the temple, Mary Magdalene and what she says at the tomb, when the temple curtain rips, in
the Gospel writers are constantly
contradicting each other.
No, drawing.
Okay, guys.
The Gospel writers are.
Okay, so there you have it, you guys. This guy, this guy was, it was Hamas killed by, okay, yeah. Well, yeah, they flip back and forth. So, yeah, I got first batch of Christmas cookies last night. Well, we've been having Christmas and we're still working on Thanksgiving leftovers too. So I mean, like the pies and everything, and the cookies and stuff. So all right. Well, you know what? I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that he said there about alleged contradictions in the Bible, and what they do quite often is they'll say, "Well, the time, about the crucifixion." About between Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and usually the alleged contradictions take place between the synoptic gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John, because John is different than Matthew, Mark, and Luke. It is John is completely different from Matthew, Mark, and Luke, even though there are some miracles that are in John that you find in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. For instance, the walking on water, feeding of 5,000, those miracles are in all of the Gospels. And of course, the crucifixion and resurrection is in, of course, all of them of the Gospels. And so, but anyway, sometimes they'll look for like one little detail and say, well, that's not the same in, all four Gospels. And so they're looking for, alleged contradictions. Now, some of the things like you guys, like differences, one of the things that you might find sometimes is like a little difference in the time. Say like, well, it says he was crucified in the third hour, then it says ninth hour. And the thing is that there were different times, like the Jews, they had their own time system, whereas the Romans had a little bit different. So third hour may be 6th hour or ninth hour for them. And so that's why sometimes, and we know that Matthew was written to the Jews. Mark was written at first, at least, to the Romans, Luke initially to the Greeks, and then John was written to the church, to the believers. Okay. And so, that's one reason why sometimes the times will be different, but that's not really a contradiction. It's just that one is using the Roman time system, whereas one is using the Jewish time system. And but there's one thing that the first thing that he talks about there is this alleged contradiction, and it's not a contradiction, between the Gospel of Matthew and the Gospel of Luke in regard to the childhood of Jesus, and specifically him going to, excuse me a second here, him going to Egypt. Okay, so let me just I have these, and let me just show them to you here. Just one second here. I got this, and then but you know what happened is I put them in here, and then I forgot. Sorry, just one second here. Okay. we could actually just pull them up and read them. I'm not sure exactly where I put them. I made pictures of them, but I don't know where I put them. So, what we'll do, it's just as easy to, and it's actually even better to just, let me do this. Let me just go ahead and open the Bible here. Okay. Let's look at, first of all, let's look at Matthew 2. He's saying that this is a contradiction. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and start in Matthew 1, just because this is where it talks about the actual birth of Jesus. Okay. So it says, let me put this up here so you can see it. Okay, sorry, that's the wrong page there. Okay, right here. It says, let's read this here about how Jesus was born. It says, now, this is how the birth of Jesus, the Messiah, came about. His mother, Mary, was pledged to be married to Joseph, but before they came together, that means they came together, but she came to be found to be pregnant through the Holy Spirit. But Joseph, her husband, was faithful to the law and yet did not want to expose her to public disgrace. He had in mind to divorce her quietly. But after he had considered this, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She'll give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord said through the prophet. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. Joseph woke up and did what the angel of the Lord commanded, and took Mary home as his wife. But he did not consummate the marriage until she gave birth to a son. So you guys, we have two verses here kind of against the immaculate or the perpetual virginity of Mary. One is before they came together, meaning they did eventually come together. And then here, it says they didn't, but he did not consummate until she gave birth to a son. So both of those verses here in Matthew show that she was not a perpetual virgin. Okay, and then this is when what happens. It says, and Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea. Okay, so one thing that he doesn't really tell us is why they were in Bethlehem. Doesn't tell you in Bethlehem. Okay, here, where Luke does tell us that they were there because of the decree that the whole world be taxed, the Roman decree. Okay, but then they said, let's just read it. It says, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea. Both Matthew and Luke say he was born in Bethlehem. During the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him. When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, He asked them where the Messiah was to be born. In Bethlehem of Judea, they replied, for this is what the prophet has written. You, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means the least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem. Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I too may go and worship him. After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother, Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts, frankincense, gold, and myrrh. And having been warned in the dream, they did not go back to Herod. They returned to their own country by another route. Okay, one thing here is that this story about the visit of the Magi is not in the Gospel of Luke. Luke talks about the visit of the shepherds. Okay, the shepherds. And the shepherds, you guys, came on the night that Jesus was born. They came on the very night that Jesus was born. So, and there was also in the temple with Anna and Simeon and all those, and there was the angels that sang. All of that you will find in Luke. But in Matthew, you have the story of the Magi. Okay, the three wise men. They call it the three wise men, even though it doesn't say that it was three. It's just that they have three gifts. And these are the wise men, probably men who were somehow associated with Daniel the prophet. And because Daniel was, the Magi were from the time of Daniel, they had the Magi, and they were the priests of Babylon. So anyway, this story is not in the Gospel of Luke. But then we have this situation. What happens is that Herod asks that, doesn't ask, he commands that all the children in Bethlehem, all the males, the boys under 2 years old, that they would be killed because he was afraid of the Messiah. And so they were killed. And it says, a voice is heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted because they are no more. Now, I just want to tell you one thing here, you guys. One thing to notice, this is a difference between Matthew and Luke. One thing about Luke, is that Joseph and Mary are in the stable. Okay, they were in the stable, and that's where the shepherds came to them, was in the stable. And they bowed down and they worshiped him. But that was in a stable the same night that Jesus was born. It's supposedly the same night that Jesus was born that this happened, because, the shepherd's field was not far away from where he was born. So, but this situation with the Magi is different, because it says that the Magi, let's right here, it says, when they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, okay, so by this time, Joseph and Mary were in a house. Okay, so they were no longer in the stable. Okay, they came to the house, And then they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshiped him. Okay, so I'm kind of curious now. Let me just look in Blue Letter Bible. Just curious. Okay, I just want to look at Matthew 2. Matthew 2. Okay, I'm just kind of curious what the word for child is. They saw the young child, paidion. Child is paidion. Okay, I'm just kind of see what that says in Greek. Paidion. Child, little child, young child. Okay. Now let's go to Matthew 2. Luke 2. Okay. Okay, but in Luke 2, the word is brephos, which is babe. Okay, so when you look in Matthew, the word is paphios, which means child. When you look in Luke, the word is like, now, let me just look at that word again. Oops. Okay. Luke 2. Okay. The babe. Okay. The word babe, brephos. Let's see how to say it. Brephos. Okay. I know it sounds like breakfast, you guys, but it's brephos. So in Matthew, when the Magi came, it was a child. Okay, Paphios. I forgot. But the word is child. But in Luke, when the shepherds came, it was a babe because it was the same day. So they came when the baby was still like the first day. Okay. But in Matthew, he was a child by now. He wasn't just a baby. Okay. I know that on all the Christmas cards, you always and in all the manger scenes, you have, and it's beautiful, and let's not change our manger scenes, especially since our manger scene is like this too. You have the wise men and you have the shepherds. You always have the two in the manger scenes. But according to the wise men is in Matthew, the shepherds is in Luke. Okay, and ever the twain shall meet. Okay, so I don't believe that the shepherds, and even if you watch The Little Drummer Boy, if you watch The Little Drummer Boy, I love The Little Drummer Boy. It's my mom's favorite Christmas program. But in there, you'll see that the shepherds and the wise men came together at the same time. But if you really look at it, there's a lot of differences between Matthew and Luke. Why? Because it's not the same time. In Matthew, they come to a house. So Mary and Joseph were in a house, and and the child, he's a child by now. It's not just a baby. And they, there's several years difference. Maybe he was 2 years old by now. We don't know how long they stayed in Bethlehem. But apparently, they were originally from Bethlehem because they were both from, they were both, I believe, yes, they were both from the house of David. They were both from the house of David, which is from Bethlehem. because if you look at the two lineages, both of them come through David. Okay, and so so they were in Bethlehem, so they probably had family there. Maybe he was a carpenter, he had money. Maybe he went there and started working, and had, because he has a house. By the time the Magi come, they have a house. Okay, so this is probably a year, 2 years later. Okay, it's probably a year to 2 years later. Maybe that's why Herod told them to kill all the babies 2 years and younger. Okay, because he was already a child. He wasn't just a baby anymore. Okay, and so and when the angel comes to him, he doesn't say take the babe and his mother. He says take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Okay, for Herod is trying to kill him, in search of the child to kill him. Okay, and so this is where the guy was saying there's a contradiction, because in one, it says in Luke, it doesn't talk about the flight to Egypt. In Luke, it doesn't talk about the flight to Egypt. So, he's saying that's a contradiction with Luke. Well, they're saying that Luke's account is a contradiction with Matthew because Matthew, because Luke doesn't mention the flight to Egypt where Matthew does. Well, the thing that he's calling this a contradiction, but it's not a contradiction. He was born in Bethlehem. The family stayed in Bethlehem, got a house. They were there when the Magi came, possibly 2 years later. We don't know exactly how long, but apparently he wasn't a babe anymore. He was a child by now. And that's when the dream came for him to take the mother and the child to Egypt. And so they fled to Egypt. It was probably 2-3 years later. Okay, and they went and stayed in Egypt, and we don't know how long they stayed in Egypt. And so, but we don't think it was that long, because the next time we hear, it is when they return from Egypt. This maybe we should go look at this. Okay, it was when they in verse 19 of Matthew chapter 2, it says, after Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel. For those who are trying to take the child's life are dead. Okay, so the angel tells him that. So he got up and took the child and his mother and went to the land of Israel. When they heard that Archelaus was reigning in Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Having been warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee, and he went and lived in a town called Nazareth. Okay, so here is where he went, to Nazareth. Okay, so we hear we have here that they went to Nazareth, and let's look at Luke. Let's look at the Luke 2, what it says there. It says in those there was the decree, there was the angels. Suddenly a great company of the heavenly host appeared with angels praising God, saying, glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace to those on whom his favor rests. When the angels had left and gone to heaven, the shepherds said to one another, let's go to Bethlehem and see this that has happened, which the Lord told us about. So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby was lying in a manger. Okay. When they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told them about this child. All who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. Okay, so the shepherds came while they were still in the manger. Probably they were just there one day, maybe 2 days, I don't know. Okay, and all who heard were amazed. But Mary treasured all these things and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying God and praising God for all they had seen, which were just as they had been told. On the 8th day, when it was time to circumcise the child, he was named Jesus. So, okay, on the 8th day, you guys, this is important because that means they didn't just go to Nazareth. I mean, I don't know what this guy's theory is, but they were still in Jerusalem on the 8th day. I mean, Bethlehem is right next to Jerusalem, by the way. You just walk from Bethlehem to Jerusalem. Can't do that today because of checkpoints, but so they were still in Jerusalem on the 8th day, and they went to the temple. They went to the temple and presented the child. And this is where they see Simeon and Anna. Okay. Okay. When Joseph and Mary had done everything required by the law, they returned to Galilee to their own town of Nazareth. The child grew and became strong and filled with wisdom, and the grace of God was on him. Okay. So now, according to this, they did go back to Galilee, to Nazareth, where they were from. Okay. But we don't know that they stayed there. Okay. Because we know that when the Magi came, they were back in Bethlehem. Okay. They were back in Bethlehem in a house. So for some reason, they went back to Bethlehem. And then it says every year, Jesus's parents went to Jerusalem for the festival of the Passover. And so the next thing we see is that Jesus, when he was 12 years old, they went up to the festival. So the next time we see Jesus is when he went, when he was 12 years old. So, there's no contradiction here. All of these things, it's very simple that this happened and this happened. There was at least 12 years in between his birth and when we see Jesus as a child at 12 years old. We don't know all the things that happened in between then. The going to Egypt, the coming back from Egypt. And so, none of this stuff is like contradiction. All of these things happened. Okay. So, all right. Well, so that's that alleged contradiction. Okay. Then we have also, what was the other one that he talked about? Okay. Oh, about Jesus and when he overturned the tables. He overturned the tables. Yes. Yeah. Oh, okay. I asked him, she said the house there means household. Okay, I'm not sure. Does that mean is Mary Harb saying that it wasn't an actual house? I think Steve's right here. That Jesus was born and sacrificed. Yes. Okay, I'm not 100% sure what that means, because it seems like the star came and if we look back at Matthew 2, if we look back at Matthew 2, we see that when it talks about the star, it says they were overjoyed until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw I guess we could look that up, could look up that word house. Okay. Could look up that word house and see what it says. That would be in Matthew 2. Okay. Presented. Okay. Or come to the house. The word is oikia. Oikia. Isn't that a store? IKEA? No, it's IKEA. Okay. Yeah, at house, at home, from the house. It does have the word household one time. It does translate house and household. So from the house. So I'm not sure that would make a difference, but yeah, it does say that. Okay, the other one was about let me see if I have these, because I did about the when Jesus overturned the tables. Okay. Shoot, what did I do with those? I don't know what I did with. Oh, okay, here. Okay. Okay, he's saying that the time when Jesus cleared out the temple, when Jesus drove out, the money changers and everybody from the temple. And so there's 3 times when that story or that situation happened. Let's look at the first one is in Matthew. It says, Jesus entered the temple courts and drove out all who were buying and selling. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves. It is written, he said to them, my house will be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of robbers. The blind and the lame came to him in the temple, and he healed them. But when the chief priests and the teachers of the law saw the wonderful things he did, and the children shouting in the temple courts, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were indignant. And they said to him, do you hear what these children are saying? They asked him. Yes, he replied. And then Jesus said, have you never heard it says, out of the mouth of babes you have perfected praise? Okay. Now this is the Mark version. And this is what Mark says. The next day they were leaving for Bethany. Okay, let's go to verse 15. On reaching Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple courts and began driving out those who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves, and would not allow anyone to carry merchandise through the temple courts. And as he taught them, he said, is it not written, my house shall be called the house of prayer for all nations, but you made it a den of robbers. The chief priests and the teachers of the law heard this, began looking for a way to kill him, for they feared him. Okay. Now, the thing you notice about Matthew and Mark is that in both cases, this is like right before Jesus dies. This is short, it's when Jesus comes into the temple after the Sunday, Palm Sunday. It is immediately after that, a few days later, he was killed. So this is at the end of his life. Whereas when you read the one in John, it's different. Okay. John, where, the one in Mark is in chapter 11. Now, Mark is only 16 chapters. So chapter 11 and the vast majority of the Gospels are about the final week of his life. The majority of the Gospels are about the last week of his life. Okay. And this is especially true in John, but it's true in Matthew and Mark and Luke. The big focus is on that last week of his life, beginning with Palm Sunday. And so Palm Sunday had already happened by chapter 11. Okay, it was in chapter 11. And then he went into the temple, drove out the money changers, and he infuriated them. And so this was at the end of his life. Both Matthew and Mark were at the end of his life, right before the crucifixion, in the last week of his life. Okay. It was after Palm Sunday that this happened. Okay. So, but in John, let's read John. When it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, Jesus went up to the Jerusalem. In the temple courts, he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and others sitting at the tables exchanging money. So he made a whip out of cords and drove all from the temple courts, both sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changer and overturned their tables. To those who sold doves, he says, "Get these things out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a market." His disciples remembered that it is written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." The Jews responded to him, "What sign do you give us to prove your authority to do all this?" Jesus answered, "Destroy this temple, and I will raise it again in 3 days." Okay, so now this, you guys, is written in John chapter 2. This is in John chapter 2, at the very beginning of his ministry. You see, the other one was at the very end of his ministry, a few days before the crucifixion. This is at the very beginning it's in chapter 2. The only miracle that had happened before this was the turning of water into wine. Jesus had turned water into wine, and then you have this story about the clearing of the temple. So they're not the same event. The words that are spoken are different. There are some that are similar because they were doing the same thing. They were back again with their coins, with their goats, with their sheep and everything, and ripping the people off, using the money changers who changed the money, the Israeli money into the temple money, and ripping the people off. So they came back and just were doing the same thing again. And so he drove them out again. There was one time this happened at the beginning of his ministry, one time this happened at the end of his ministry. Okay, so they're not the same event. Now, the same thing happened, but one of them happened during Passion Week, and the other happened at the very beginning of his ministry. This was before he met Nicodemus, before he met the Samaritan woman, before the miracle at the pool of Bethesda, before he walked on water, before he fed the 5,000, before he raised Lazarus, before he healed the blind man. So it was before all of these miracles that the one in John happened. So they're not the same event. Now, the same thing happened in both, but the Bible never says that he only did it once. He may have done it more than twice. He may have done it more than twice, and that'd be completely consistent. That would be completely consistent with what the prophecy says. Remember the prophecy in Malachi? I believe it's chapter 4. Look what it says in Malachi chapter 4 at the beginning. Okay. It says, okay, maybe it's chapter 3. Chapter 3. Chapter 3. Ooh, nice. Want me to show it? What? Let me show it. No, it's beautiful, boo boo. Look what my wife drew, you guys. She's an artist too. Look, my wife drew that. There's the lady touching the hem of his garment.
Yes.
See the woman touching the hem of his garment. Beautiful baby. All right. Here's what it says in Malachi, a prophecy about Jesus. It says, "I will send my messenger who will prepare the way before me." Wow. Wow. Then suddenly, wow. Dang, you guys, this is so amazing. The Lord you are seeking will come to his temple. The messenger of the covenant whom you desire will come. But who can endure the day of his coming? Who can stand when he appears? For he will be a refiner's fire or a launderer's soap. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify the Levites and refine them as gold. Sorry about you guys. Anyway, I was trying to show you Malachi chapter 3. It says, "The Lord whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple." Adonai will come to his temple. The messenger, Melech. Okay, messenger is Melech, but also angel. It also means angel. So, yes. So Jesus he cleansed the temple at the beginning of his ministry. That's in John. And at the end of his ministry, that's in Matthew and Mark. So that's why he's saying it's a contradiction. When did this happen? At the beginning or at the end? It happened at both the beginning and the end of his ministry. So John is correct, and Matthew is correct, and Mark. So anyway, he said that was a contradiction, but it's not a contradiction. So, all right, you guys, I just wanted to kind of talk about, people are so desperate to justify their unbelief, and see the arrogance in that guy, the way he was talking to Dinesh D'Souza, the way he was talking to him, and it's but just pray for that guy that he'll come to know the Lord. I don't know if he's a Muslim. I don't think he's a Muslim. And I mean, we could talk for a year about contradictions in the Quran, but that'll be for another live stream. So let me see. All right, you guys, let me see the tables. Okay. He was saying something about, another one of the contradictions that they often talk about is that in some of the Gospels, it talks about, when Jesus went to the Gadarenes and there was the demoniac, the demon-possessed guy in the tomb, the guy who didn't wear any clothes. Yes, the bloke on the thumbnail. That they say, wait a minute, one time he says there's two guys, one time he says one guy. Well, that's not a contradiction. One time it tells you that there were two guys, but the other time it only talks about the guy who did the talking. There was one guy who did the talking and one guy, it doesn't say that there weren't two guys. Okay. It just says that there was one particular guy that, that Jesus was talking to, the one who had legion in him. Okay. And so, they're looking for contradictions. He's not an Abdul, he's an atheist. Yeah, that's what I thought. He had that arrogance of the atheist in him, in his eyes. But let's hope he comes to know the Lord in Jesus' name. And so anyway, both can be true. Both are true. Excuse me. Both are true. There's one. Okay. And again, we could look at this if we have, there's no reason we can't look at both of them. Let's look here. Luke chapter 2. Okay. I know that one of them is in Mark chapter 5. Okay. He went across to the Gerasenes. Jesus got out of the boat, and a man with the impure spirit came from the tombs to meet him. The man lived in the tombs. No one could bind him, not even with a chain. Okay. When Jesus asked him, what is your name? He said, Legion, for we are many. And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding in the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, send us among the pigs, allow us to go into them. So he gave them permission. And the impure spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd of about 2,000 in number rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Okay, so this is one of the stories. And then let me see if this tells us here. Where in Matthew, okay, it's also in Luke 8. Okay, let's look in there. Luke 8. Especially Luke, you guys. Oops. Luke 8. Especially Luke, he's always just a little bit different than the others, because he's a physician and he also, he wasn't an eyewitness, but he interviewed the eyewitnesses. So there's, sometimes he'll tell something, not that it contradicts the others, but he tells it a little bit differently than the others. Okay. And Jesus stepped and he was met by a demon-possessed man from the town. For a long time, the man lived. Okay, now this one is the same. It tells that about one man. It's only telling about the one man. I think there's also it's also in Matthew, I believe. I wonder why they didn't give it here. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, it's in Matthew 8. It's also in Matthew 8. So let's look in the Matthew one. So it's in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. I think Matthew is the one who has two people. Okay, the centurion heals man, calms a storm. Okay. When he arrived on the other side of the Gadarenes, two demon-possessed men came from the tombs and met him. They were so violent no one could pass that way. What do you want with us, Son of God? They shouted. Have you come to torture us before the time? Some distance from them, a large herd of pigs was feeding. The demons begged Jesus, if you drive us out, drive us into the herd of pigs. He said to them, go. So they went out and went into the pigs. The whole herd of pigs went down the steep bank and died in the water. Okay, so there's nothing here that contradicts. I mean, over there, it says there's one man. It says that Jesus spoke to the one man, but it doesn't say that there wasn't another. Okay, but here it specifies that there were two. But the fact that there are two, I could tell you, well, I went to the store and I saw my mom. Okay, I went to the store and I saw my mom. Well, I also saw my mom's best friend, Peggy. But my focus was my mom. I didn't lie to you. I just didn't tell you about Peggy because Peggy, and in this particular case, my interest is in my mom, not in Peggy. Okay, but I didn't lie by not telling you about Peggy because my focus is about my mom. And so that's what is the situation here. It's not a contradiction. It's just that one of them tells you about the two men and two of them tell you about the one man. Okay, but by telling you about the one, he's not denying the presence of the second. Okay, so, all right. Well, all of these alleged contradictions are just excuses, and they can all be, hey, Sir Clips a lot, how are you? God bless you. Haven't seen you for a while. So, all these alleged contradictions can be very easily explained away. Most of them are just, um, with the another situation that quite often they talk about is in one case there's one angel at the resurrection, where the other one there's two angels. Okay, by saying that there was one, that doesn't mean that there wasn't another. Saying that he's spoken to a man or to an angel doesn't mean there wasn't 16 other angels there. There may have been 16 other angels, but I'm talking to you about this angel. Okay. And so again, it's not a contradiction. It's just, the focus is the one that they talk to. So, yeah, well, these are some of, whenever you look at the alleged contradictions in the Bible, they always have these are the ones that they list. So, yeah, so there it is, you guys. And you know what? It's worth also. Let's go ahead and go to the. And by the way, it's an ex-Muslim who sent me that video, and so okay, let's go right here. Let's go here to the. Let's go to the resurrection 27 and be 28. Matthew 28. Okay. Okay, while the women were on their way, some of the guards, okay. There was a violent earthquake. The angel said to the women, okay, well, let's go here. After the Sabbath at dawn of the first day, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to the tomb. There was a violent earthquake, and the angel of the Lord came from heaven, and going to the tomb, rolled back the stone and sat on it. Okay. The angel said to the women, do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here. He has risen. Okay. Come and see the place where he lay. The women hurried away from the tomb, afraid yet filled with joy. Okay. And then you have, let's look at Mark. Mark, it would be chapter 15. Actually, I think, yeah. It says, oops. No, actually, it'd be Mark 16. It says Mary Magdalene and Mary the mother and Salome, not Salami, Salome, or Salome. Okay, sorry guys. Bought spices so that they might anoint the body of Jesus very early on the first day of the week. Before the sunrise, they were on their way to the tomb. They asked, "Who will roll the stone away?" But when they looked up, they saw the stone, which was very large, had been rolled away. They entered the tomb and saw a young man dressed in a white robe sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. "Don't be alarmed. You're looking for Jesus of Nazareth who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him." Trembling, the bewildered women went out and fled from the tomb. They said nothing to anyone because they were afraid. Okay. Okay. Then we got the Luke version. Luke will probably be in chapter 23. Oops, 24. Okay, on the first day of the week in the morning, the women took spices, prepared. They found the stone rolled away from the tomb, but they entered and did not find the body. While they were wondering about this, suddenly 2 men in clothes that gleamed like lightning stood beside them. In their fright, the women bowed to their faces to the ground. The men said, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here, but has risen. Remember how he told you while he was with you in Galilee." Okay. When they came back from the tomb, they told all these things to the 11. It was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary, the mother of James, and others with them who told the apostles. Okay. So here again, you have the women coming and being, I think in almost all of these so far that it was, it was 2 angels there. So let's look at John 20. Okay. On the first day of the week, while it was dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw the stone had been removed. She came running to Simon Peter and said, the one Jesus loved, and said, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb. We don't know where they have put him." So Peter and the other disciples started for the tomb. Okay. So here, Mary Magdalene, this is while it was still dark. Okay. So, it seems like she went there more than once. Like she went there and it was tomb, she saw the temple, the tomb. Okay. And here it doesn't talk about her seeing the angels. Okay. So it may have been before, because it says this is while it still was dark. Okay. And so, all of these events very easily, they happened, and they don't contradict each other. They're just different events that happened. So, and then when Jesus stood outside the tomb crying, she wept. She bent over, looking in the tomb, and saw 2 angels in white seated where the body of Jesus had been. So there you see, this is the second time she came to the tomb. Okay. This is the second time she came to the tomb. And because, the first time she went to the disciples. And then the second time she was standing in front of the tomb and she was crying. And then she saw the 2 angels. So again, a lot more. None of the writers tell you everything that happened. And even all 4 of them don't tell you everything that happened. They all tell you bits and pieces of what happened. And they all fit together. They don't contradict each other. They fit together. Okay. Now one may focus on a particular action or a particular event, but that doesn't mean it contradicts the other actions and events. Okay. So, that's what makes it richer, when you have all these different details that you learn from Matthew, from Mark, from Luke, from John. Okay. And you got to add to it also the fact that, especially with Luke, that you have the testimony of the eyewitnesses that he spoke with, and including Mary, the mother of Jesus. And so, yeah. And John, which was the last gospel to be written, and some people say it's written like around 90 or 100 AD, but I think it's my opinion, and for all it matters, it was written before 70 AD, because it does not talk about the destruction of the temple. And in fact, none of the books in the New Testament talk about the destruction. They predict the destruction of the temple, but the actual event of the destruction of the temple is not recorded in any of the New Testament books, which means they were all written before the destruction of the temple in 70 AD, meaning they were written within 40 years of the resurrection. So, all right, you guys. Well, just wanted to address some of those subjects. Here's Houston. I just want to see what Sharkbite says. Okay. The Muslims define contradictions for the Bible differently than they define. The Quran is one huge contradiction. Meanwhile, we see the world is taking shape for the book of Revelation. Well, you're absolutely right. And you guys, let me just be crazy for a little bit, okay? Let me just be crazy for a little bit. And what is the biggest news item in America right now? It's not Donald Trump. It's not about that demon-possessed guy who killed that healthcare CEO. It's not Daniel Penny. The number one news in America right now is about signs in the heavens. Signs in the heavens. Diddy's parties, yes, that too. And but one thing Jesus talked about, there will be signs in the heavens. Signs in the heavens. And I'm sure you guys have seen this, but I think it's worth watching at least one video, because I've been wanting to do something about the signs in the heavens. But what's happening over in New Jersey? What's happening over in New Jersey is kind of crazy. All these people are saying they got all of these drones. I mean, just some of them are saying there's so many drones, and people are scared and asking about them. And let's just look at what. Let's see this one right here. Oh no, okay, here.
Tonight, an aerial mystery that's been described as unnerving is growing. The FBI now investigating multiple reports of unidentified drones flying over New Jersey, some as large as a small car. And today, a large drone seen here, also described as the size of a small vehicle, flying over a California event where Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin was in attendance.
More drones in the sky, Rockaway, New Jersey.
The New Jersey drones, initially spotted in the northern part of the state, now being reported further south. Sightings also now being reported in New York City. Staten Island Borough President Vito Fossella calling on the FAA and FBI to expand their investigation.
People have seen a number of 15-foot or so wingspan drones hovering around. In this day and age, I just don't think that that's something you take lightly. If it is nothing to be concerned about, someone should come forward and say that.
Residents alarmed by the number of sightings.
One would go over, and then the next one would come, and then the next one, and the next one. So it wasn't like there would be 20 coming at one time.
Jonathan Lace, a pilot himself, shot this shocking video overnight of multiple car-sized drones near the Essex County, New Jersey airport. So concerned by what he saw, he contacted the FAA.
What's been probably the most alarming thing to you? As a pilot, I can tell you that, when you're about to land, the last thing you want to see is something hovering in front of you.
What is that?
With many questions and few answers, residents and officials alike on high alert as the mystery in the sky deepens. George Solis, NBC News, New York.
Yeah, I'm not sure the Bible's inspired, written by men, while the Quran claims it's God's word written for is written by, yes, but the Bible is, of course, the Quran. Of course, that's what Muslims say about the Quran, but we know it's not true, that it is preserved word for word. We have so many different Qurans that obviously that isn't, what is it? Whatever it is. Yeah, I don't believe in extraterrestrials, but I do think it could be from Iran. It's just weird that so many of them are coming around, and they're saying that Iran just built this new ship. It's a huge ship specifically for drones. It's a drone ship. And so they're thinking that maybe that ship is where these are coming from. So anyway, it's freaky. And I guess it came here to California too. So someone quibbling about the story has no problem with the Quran having multiple stories where Allah ordered yeah. And, 5 blind men describing the elephant, yes. Yes. But it is, I do think that we are getting the book of Revelation, the rapture is near, but we're not there yet. We have a lot of work to do, a lot of people to preach to, got a lot of people who got to get saved yet. We do the work of the Lord and keep on preaching. So anyway, so yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about this, about these alleged contradictions in the Bible. And let me see one more time, see if I could see the okay, no, I don't have any of the videos of the outreach today, so I can't share those with you. So all right, you guys, well, we'll just go ahead and call it a night tonight then. If you haven't done it, please do it now. Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. Yesur, sa'idni. Yesur, samahni. Yesur, udkhul qalbi. We love you, but much more importantly, Flying Car Show. Much more importantly, he loves you. Thank you for spending a few moments with us today, and have a blessed night. Thanks.
If you have ever wondered why dull apologists lie so much, it's because on a rare occasion that they tell the truth, this happens.
One of the reasons I accepted Islam was the scientific miracles. I'll be honest with you. And now we know that this whole scientific miracles was absolute nonsense.
You're going to have to repeat that.
That the standard narrative has holes in it. That's what I'm going to say.